Today I'm going to get round to grit blasting this transmission cover. I'm going to remove that stator. I think there's just 3 bolts in the centre of it and a couple of screws holding the Hall effect sensor to the outside. Give the oil and shit in there a bit of a wipe out with a rag, and then use a little bit of degreaser to squirt around it. Otherwise it's fairly clean in there. I don't want to wash too much more shit into the bearings. Then it's a matter of using a heat gun to heat the case a little bit and tap those bearings out. After removing the stator and Hall effect sensor from here, I also removed the 3 bearings. The way I did that was heating the aluminium casing around each bearing from the back side here, get it up to about 100 degrees C, and I can tell it's about 100 degrees C because that's when your spit tends to fizzle when you put it on your finger and dip it on the plate. If it fizzes away immediately, it's at about 100 degrees C, and at that temperature one of the bearings just fell out by itself and the other 2 took a bit of a knock on a board like that and they fell out. That inner case there is pretty clean without it had a bit of degreaser sprayed around it and a bit of a wipe and then a hose, so the inside's pretty good for now. The outside, I'm concerned about if I was sandblasting this, that this machine surface here could get eroded by the sandblasting. My plan is to bolt this to the piece of melamine board there. That will protect that surface. Now this crankshaft seal is buggered. I could tell that because the spring from it was around the starter cup that fits through there, so that crankshaft spring is knackered, probably caused a lot of the oil and shit to be thrown up on top here. And that's the oil seal for the transfer case shifting lever. It probably could do with being replaced as well, so I'm just going to leave both of those in place, and that will protect the seats that they're in, and they can be knocked out later when and if this cover's ever used again. This surface here where the starter bolts up, I'm not sure I'm going to be overly anal about protecting that one. I'm thinking that I'll just steer clear of it a little bit. There's a paper gasket. It's not a ultimate seal. There's a little weepage hole at the bottom there. Yes, it's supposed to be a flat surface. I think I'll just be a bit careful around it rather than making something up that fits that. So that's the casing cover bolted down with 4 bolts into a piece of old melamine, just like that. I'm now going to use that in the grit blaster machine and to protect that mating surface. I had a change of plan. I've just traced around that recoil starter to get the outline of it. I'm going to jigsaw around that. This is to actually protect that surface, that machine surface that's underneath the recoil starter. Might be a bit of an overkill, but I'll do it anyway. That's the sound of the vacuum cleaner running in the grit blaster. Vision through the window is poor and difficult to film. Getting your hands, the gun, the part under the light is quite a challenge. I've muted the sound of the spray gun. It was difficult to see whether it was making any difference whatsoever. The gun siphons the grit up from the bottom of the tray. I have paused to adjust the flow rate of the grit. There may be slight improvement in material removal now. You've seen and heard enough of that at this stage. It's a piercing sound. So I needed to make further adjustments to the grit flow, and then I was starting to get a better result. I don't think I showed any footage of the best flow through the gun. Very difficult to film anything inside the box, and initially the unit wasn't running properly, and I adjusted the flow rate of the grip. Look, there's parts here that have been missed. I think there was some grease still on here. I'll knock that off with a screwdriver. The stones are obviously just bouncing off it. There are other places where are just simply missed at this stage, and here, a bit difficult to get your hands in around all of it to see where you're going. Yeah, it's pretty light on just there. It needs a bit more. I think I'll pretty much just give it a overall going over again in there, but it's working. We're achieving something. So that's the appearance after a second blast in the machine. Those grease spot areas here have largely disappeared. I'm not overly satisfied with the appearance of it. I expected it to be a little bit shinier. It's a fairly even surface all over, so I suppose what more can I expect from it? Is abrasive garnet blast. It may be better with glass, and it certainly would be better with vapor blast. The grit blasted finish doesn't compare to the wire brush and wire wheel finish I got. The rubbish on the surface at least stays in the grit blaster. After grit blasting, a rub on the wire wheel may well get the shiny finish I'm looking for. Get out to your shed and have some fun.